Cybersecurity, climate and economic cooperation. U.S. Vice-President Kamala Harris announces new areas of cooperation with Singapore. Well, staying on that story, we are joined by Dr. Chong Ja Ian, Associate Professor of Political Science Department at NUS. Dr. Chong, welcome. Now, climate, the economy, and even pandemic cooperation. What do these specific areas of cooperation tell you about the Singapore-U.S. relationship?
So I think the areas for cooperation suggest that the Singapore-U.S. relationship is quite multifaceted. Of course, the economics is very important, but even in the area of climate change and the environment, there is a part of that relationship that is worth further exploring and developing. I will say, however, that what we have so far are MOUs. They're good, they're steps forward, but they're not as good as binding agreements. So I would be looking at, where we move forward from here. This is a first step.
So when it comes then to the sort of intensity of the engagements that's been seen so far, you're saying that, we still need to see some sort of action put into place and more than just sort of words on a memorandum.
Absolutely. I think what really matters at this point isn't just words. We have lots of words already. It's how these words move into action. So, for instance, I think on the environment, that set of MOUs, there's no action plan, there's no date. I would like to see those come into place. Of course, I understand that it takes some time for these elements to fall into place. But I think the real test for how our relationship moves forward is how we can both commit, right, to the furtherance of these key elements of cooperation.
Vice President Harris's trip comes just a month after U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin visited Singapore. When you look at that together, what signal does it send from the U.S. to the region, to Singapore and the wider region in terms of its engagement intentions?
So the Biden administration came to office saying two things. One, that it has to focus domestically, and the other is that its foreign policy will be very much Asia-based, right? And so the Austin visit, the Harris visit, and also the conference calls that Secretary Blinken had with ASEAN leaders suggest that the Biden administration is trying to live up to its promises. But of course, I think what we also need to take note of is whether these meetings, while they're good, amount to something else. Having bilateral memoranda of understanding is good. The question is how they will then possibly expand to cover the rest of the region, because of course the region isn't just bilateral relations.
And what do you make of Singapore offering to help evacuate refugees in Afghanistan?
So I think it's a good gesture. It suggests that Singapore is willing to put its foot forward on some humanitarian issues. We tend not to take refugees, but I think supporting humanitarian evacuations is useful. I think it is a step. It is a gesture. One aircraft doesn't make a complete difference, but it does mean something. We don't have that big an air force, so it does suggest that we're willing to put our foot forward to commit to some of these larger, broader international issues.
Dr. Chong, thank you for joining us this evening. Dr. Chong Ja Ian, Associate Professor at NUS.